All right, this is session 3 of episode 2. Episode 2 still currently titled Court of Opinion. In our last session, some of the situations which took place began to become more dramatic, I would say, more complicated, both from character action and from the input of the dice. Those, neutral arbiters of situation. And we have had a situation between Ensign Yang and his very politically powerful and well-connected parents, where he managed to buy himself some time, which is one of the complications that Ensign Yang is now under. He's under a few. One, his his career ambitions within Starfleet to move toward a command seat, a ship of his own someday, have received a major stumbling block in the form of a very negative report which suggests he might not be officer material. His parents have learned of this and want to do something, which of course would be devastating for young Ensign Yang's career, and so he has bought himself some time to kind of erase or address or in some way deal with this black mark. But it is a time limit that's weighing upon him. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Korsakov, who has been dealt a pretty nasty hand to deal with, or should we say leg to deal with, has been undergoing medical evaluation to match him up with the best possible prosthetic device for his comfort and for his role in Starfleet, but at the same time has been called upon to be in a sense, a character witness at a competency hearing for the former captain of the Avicenna.
Sadly perceived as and perhaps accurately perceived as a hostile witness in that regard.
Right. So,
or the prosecution, so to speak.
Right. Through some diligence, Korsakov has been working with the counselor attached to preparing witnesses for what might be asked of them at the competency hearing, and has earned himself the advantage of well prepared. So we can imagine that Korsakov should be advantaged when it comes to not falling into common traps, or hopefully even maybe preventing certain lines of questioning. However,
given all the threat that is bearing down upon him in this regard, the advantage only slightly mitigates the difficulties that have been, happily climbing up the cliff like a monkey at this point. So
yes, there is definitely that. But there's also the compulsion, the urge, which is riding on him to come clean about the alien artifact and get it out there for many reasons, which we're gone into and may come up again. So, as we move into this third session of the episode, there are many questions about Captain Anders, for former Captain Anders. Is there any reason to worry about him or not? And there's that ticking clock. Will Ensign Yang be able to figure out something to do about his career before something even more dreadful happens?
You're watching Channel 3, SF TV.
Step up, everybody, cause here she comes. Mercury Montego for 71. The size is handy and the styling's nice. A lot of luxury at a real low price.
Mercury, better ideas make better cars.
Take the best ideas in intermediate cars, add the room and luxury of a bigger car. Put them all together and there you are. Montego, the better intermediate car.
And so, we will open up this evening with something a little surprising, maybe, although it was speculated about last week. I'm going to open a scene in the main tower of Starbase 11, where crew quarters for the Avicenna crew members who are on rest and relaxation on Starbase 11 are based. And I'd like to suggest that Anya Smith and Joanne Finch are...
No, Jane Finch and
Jane
Joanne
Finch,
Parker.
sorry. Yeah, Joanne Parker. Yeah.
Jane.
And Jane Finch are... Yeah, they're merging into one entity. No. They are not finished with their night out. As we recall, during Ensign Yang's meeting with his contact in Starbase 11 administration, he had gone with 3 wing people. He had taken Anya Smith, Joanne Parker, and Jane Finch with him.
I'm a little alarmed at that myself.
I'm not really sure what message this is sending to.
I know, seriously. Go on.
And during that conversation, the repeated
geek viewer heaven, no other reason.
Yeah.
Right.
The repeated focus on the career track, on lost opportunities for command and so on had aggravated Jane to quite an extent, which Anya had noticed, and suggested that they, maybe we should go off. Well, Jane had excused herself for a while, and then came back. Ensign Yang.
Okay, I was wondering about that because we saw her in our little glance into the evil future.
That's right. So Ensign Yang had excused himself to go off to meet with Ambassadors Yang and Yang, and leaving Joanne Parker kind of by herself, and then Anya, and then Jane Finch comes back. But I'm also going to suggest that perhaps Joanne Parker is going to excuse herself from this power duo. All right. So we are in the lower level of the main tower of Starbase 11. There are a variety of small, very focused kind of bistro type places, and more utilitarian, like replacement of travel bags and this sort of stuff for the crew person on the go. But it's not a resort area, but it's
we're in the Copenhagen airport.
There you go. It's trying to connect with people who are trying to have a vacation, and it's trying to connect with the Starfleet personnel on the go, and so you can imagine that kind of scene. And there is no day or nighttime cycle. Everybody's arriving on their own ship time.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so it's got muted lighting, which could be either day or night, and all right. So one of you will have the fun joy of taking on the role of Jane Finch, and the other, the always delightful Anya.
Ooh. Could we like be totally Star Trek Adventures here and switch so that I played Anya at last appearance, and so this time I play Jane? And I like the communal brain. It's kind of interesting for characters. So
all right.
If it's okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. So you take Anya.
No, I'm taking Jane. I played Anya
Jane.
in the bar.
Right. I'll take Anya. Right.
And it's tricky because Jane, we now know, is and is possibly compromised, right, by the artifact. So now Anya is we have talked about as they're both, let me just, because of the switching around that I just requested, I just realized the waters that I'm swimming in, and I have to, make sure that we're all there together. One is, if I'm remembering correctly, Jane is older.
The older one.
Older, yeah.
Right.
Older one.
Number 2, Jane is actually not that far away from retiring if she at least eligible.
Like weeks.
But both of them are sort of end stage Avicenna diehards, right? They are they have that in common. Although Anya has more of a career ahead of her. I mean, more time, right?
Probably more years on the Avicenna.
There is, among the crew of the Avicenna, there is a suggestion that Jane Finch, there's a suggestion of surprise that Jane Finch would be mustering out. And the timing would have folk like Mbuto and Korsakov and other long-termers wondering if it's tied in some way to the Captain Anders scandal.
The idea, if Captain Anders is going, then there are a number of crew members who might go as well.
Go with him.
Right. Or decide to do something else. To follow up on what you just said, Casey, my impression is that both of them have been with the Avicenna for some time.
Yeah.
Right.
They'll be the more experienced ones.
Right.
Compared to
they used to. They both have worked with Captain Anders. Yeah. Telek was the new guy as far as they were concerned. Right.
Yeah.
So they go back to the Dauntless days prior to the assignment. And then with the reassignment, then we bring in Telek, and then we have a time of change, and then we have.
And we know that Anya is communications lady with more than one correspondence to a certain other communications officer who shall go unnamed. But Jane, her specialty was.
She was the flight controller before Ensign Yang.
Before Yang, right? Okay,
right.
Okay.
So she's simply finishing her term, and she takes a duty shift.
Right. Got it. Okay.
All right. So we can imagine Jane Finch with a value like loyalty.
I was wondering about a value. Should we? We could do loyalty.
Yeah, she's due for one.
Yeah. I'd say we've got that. So, did it already, or already on top of it. Totally. That's Anya, and for Jane, it's this kind of.
So we are talking about loyalty to Anders or the Dauntless?
I think that's too specific. I think loyalty to Anders is too specific. I'm thinking more of like loyalty to
as in virtue.
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. Right.
Something is making her unhappily leave. Right.
Right.
The Avicenna. So
loyalty to the heritage, is loyal to the legacy. Maybe. The legacy of the Avicenna is an honorable one. We shouldn't screw it up with all of these rapid changes and weirdnesses.
Right. And so here's the last exciting detail.
Possibly.
Because you both are privy to the cutscene, Jane is under a complication.
Yes.
All right.
As
she needs to get the access codes to Lieutenant Korsakov's quarters on the Avicenna. And if anybody can get them, Anya can.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. So this is interesting sort of blend of NPC and supporting character because of the complication. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. I've been assigned a little more than I might for just any supporting character.
Right.
Got it. All right.
Now you both have one other little complication, and that's alcohol consumption.
Oh, messages.
Okay. So this will just affect certain difficulties, making them
Right.
harder.
Oh man, what next? You're gonna take. I know what's next. You're gonna take cigarette ads. You're gonna take away cigarette commercials any minute now, aren't you?
And it's going to make other things easier. And yes, I will not be putting any cigarette ads in the run of any of
If
these
I'm not
videos.
mistaken, this is right at the moment when they were discontinued.
Somewhere around here, there are some
You just now
that I
or
found.
just before 69,
Yeah.
70, something like that. Yeah.
They're a little shocking, actually.
Oh no, you go back. I mean, it's all about smoking the cigarettes and Viceroy.
Yeah, but it's like newly married couples, and it's the
Right.
woman who's smoking. She's talking about menthol.
hmm
It's like, whatever. Anyway,
Less
yes. So
tar.
some of
Oh, good.
some of the situations you may get yourselves into that require dice rolls will be lubricated by the alcohol. Others will be hampered by the alcohol. Good luck.
Or what's up with this Yang? He can fly. I'll give him that. But I mean, he's a mama's boy. He's he's brought all these politics onto the ship. Half the crew, don't like him. I mean, really, are you going to stick with him like this?
Well, he hasn't done anything that showing that he's pulling strings from the parents. Although that one call from during in the was it Xenon 5? It was in the
Xeon
episode
5?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Xeon 5. Yeah, except for that call from Xeon 5 was a little awkward, but
Good. She points at you. Good one, by the way. Good one. At Anya. Yeah.
yeah. But he hasn't really used any of his influence on the ship so far. And I believe Anya was in the cafeteria. No, she was not in the cafeteria when Yang.
No, Joanne was. Yeah.
Was Jane there though?
No, it was just
right.
Joanne.
So neither of them knew about that incident there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but if anyone would know, Anya would know.
Right.
Well, okay, she can bring it up. Maybe she heard it from Parker, actually.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that Yang has been put in situations where he could have used other means, but he has spent it for himself. So, give the kid a little slack. He's fresh in the academy, and he has pulled his weight somewhat.
A lot of new things on the ship lately, Anya.
I mean, he's one of the few that has done the work. He's gone down to Xenon 5, both on the transporter and in the shuttle. He's gone down to the underground levels as well with Korsakov. And if someone wins in the proof from Korsakov, you know what that means.
All right. I'll give you that. But Korsakov's not his old self either, I mean, ever since, and she kind of pauses, he's been, a little off. Tough as ever, but, there's just a lot. I just feel like the whole command structure, everybody's just been going by the seat of their pants. Which is like we're making it up as we go along. And it's just not the same. I mean, are you? What?
Anya laughs it off like we've been flying on the seat of pants the whole time, even when Anders was still in the captaincy. So that's nothing new for me. I'm not sure I'm getting what you're noticing.
No, this is great. It makes great sense. So, yeah.
I mean,
I'll ease off and move more into small talk, and say, by the way, what's, what about this is not intended to be like major backstory, but it's kind of like, what about old Belter? Did after he retired, have you heard from him? So it's not really intended. I don't intend to make up a whole backstory here, but she's kind of diverting it off into a completely personal, boring ass.
It's like this is a disarming
pleasant topic. Right. Exactly. No, really? Did you? How cynical of you to say so.
We could make it a role.
Oh yeah.
Anya was on the case, and suddenly Jane Finch is like, "Hey, let's take this off. Let's take some heat off."
Talk about Belter for a bit. Nice old guy. Hope he's fine. Raising goats, whatever he's doing on that asteroid, right? So.
You want to have a ranch somewhere?
Who knows?
So, shall we see how persuasive, how controlling of the topic of conversation old Jane is, and how much
you want to go to the dice already?
I thought you asked me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It feels
I hadn't asked for dice yet.
Oh, okay. Because otherwise, Anya. But what would Anya's script be? She's busy, taking on communications officer and what Avicenna has been going through for the past few missions. So she wouldn't be up to date on the latest happenings of, former associates. But she might just, mention a few things like, he was thinking about doing this, I'm not doing that, and he did a few things, but I don't know what was the latest going on with him. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is where Anya would actually throw the question back at Jane and say, what would you do when, your days are coming up? So what are your plans?
Right. She gets serious, right? And kind of body language changes a little bit. So now we're, a little more, maybe not physically closer, but kind of turns toward it. So there's more of a personal space arrangement. And I would have said that I would stick it out either until the ship falls apart around me, or I end up, as a leftover from some mission, end the days with a shipboard memorial. I would have said that. Now, I'm not so sure. I think it really depends on who ends up being our real captain. I've seen Sten. I've seen him here on the station. We've had a chance to talk a little. He's ready. He is, we know, I went through it on Xenon 9, not Xenon 9. I went through it on Triton 8, right? I went through that on Triton 8 too. I'm fine. So's he. We've all been through rough things. I'll give Korsakov credit. He just went through, he's been shattered, right? He's lost his leg. And all of us go through these things. I went through it. Korsakov's gone through it. It's different for all of us. Yes, Stan broke down. Of course he would. A lot of us did. But he's back. And sure, we pulled it out of the fire at Xenon 9. We pulled it out of the fire in the Helena system. But don't you think it's time for us to get back on track? Telek is, he's a good doctor, right? He's a good doctor. And he did his job. He probably wasn't wrong. but stands back. He's okay. If that happens, try and get rid of me. You know, I can show Joanne and Andrew how to kick it out there in the stars.
Well, if Anders comes back, then we'll be going back to the Dauntless days. We'll be going on more combat-oriented missions than what we are currently doing now. And I wouldn't say it's any much different, but I definitely like seeing the results of saving lives than taking them as much. What's wrong with Tillich anyway?
You got a point about that. It's just fighting the enemy is so much simpler sometimes. And it's hard to give up on the heritage of the Dauntless. Tillich, well, you know, I guess it's just the new Starfleet, right? More colors, more different body parts and cultures. I accept that that's the right thing to do, but it's hard for a person to age into that. I think you'll understand, I'm sure.
Anya
Maybe it'll be easier. Yeah. Maybe it'll be easier for Joanne and Andrew and people coming in now. Yeah. They won't see that as a change. For me, kind of nods. It is.
Well,
wheels going on back here. How do we get to that? How do we get the fucking quarters? You know, I'm not getting the.
You're not getting the.
Anya's tough. Anya's tough. It's tough to get.
Well, if Anders is the way I see it, if Anders is back and he's fit for command, I don't see a real reason why he has to come back to the Avicenna. They could just give him another ship, go do the Dauntless thing all over again in a different name. Till they can stay and do the Avicenna thing. That's why we have all the young bloods right now. And I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, but we have to pass the baton. We have to pass the baton at some point. Doesn't matter if it's now or later.
Well, I guess that's my choice then, now or later. Exactly along with that. There is one thing about Tillich that you should know if you don't. And I hate to say it, about Korsakov too. There's more of a conspiracy going on than I think anybody really knows. And it's only really evident. I mean, I'm sure if you think about it, you'll spot it in a second. And poor Mbuto took all the heat for it, right? He took all the punishment for it. And Tillich jumps up into commanding officer. Korsakov, just kept his mouth shut and glared like he does and stayed right where he was. They've been up to something. And I think Korsakov's running things out of his quarters more than we realize. I think that's kind of turned into a command office. He's got the whole security team under his thumb, the whole thing. If he and Tillich want the Avicenna to do something in the middle of a mission, to go their own way, to have their own agenda, nobody could stop them. They've already, granted, Starfleet usually has its head stuck up somewhere, but they could go anywhere they want and do whatever they want on a mission, and nothing could stop them. Nobody on the ship, nobody in the command structure. I mean, sure, Steen went his own way a lot, but these guys, he wasn't clever about it. He was just him. These guys seem kind of clever, right? You know, those Vulcans, you never know. You never know. And I don't know. I mean, we ought to do something. We need to find out whether can you help me figure out whether I'm nuts about this? Am I just getting old and cranky and paranoid? Can you help me figure this out? I mean, maybe we're just talking about two strong-minded people, which is what the Avicenna needs, or maybe we're talking about the possibility of a rogue ship. I mean, it's a pretty tough little package to do whatever a couple of guys want. Wouldn't be she kind of shrugs and says, wouldn't be the first time, you know, a starship went off the rails. Happens a lot more than they tell any of the cadets, that's for sure.
I like this. I mean, okay, speaking out of character, I actually like this argument a lot. And I think this is where I would like to let the dice decide.
Oh, right.
All right, let me get my dice.
All right. Back at you. You did it to me. That's with juicy. A Buto.
Yeah. Really good. And that argument presented by Jane Finch has 3 strong pillars on which to stand. Right? Presenting not exactly evidence, because this is 2 fairly drunk individuals.
Right, yeah.
In a bar. Not like we're laying down.
That actually serves her purpose very well in this regard. It means she can be a little illogical, admit I'm kind of paranoid, you know, speaking a little uninhibited here, right?
The accusation holds more weight than the evidence.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so we got three pretty good punches to come in to raise Anya's difficulty. We've got an active character in Jane Finch who has a mission to persuade, right? So all of these salvos are headed in Anya's direction, and Anya's contribution in defense was like, yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
So it's even so though. I mean, Anya's no pushover. So we'll see. You know,
we'll see what happens. Okay, so I will.
I mean, I can probably think of a defense, but I think, you know, let's let the guys decide where we should go.
Yeah.
All right, so I will just remind.
I like that idea. The defense rests, no pun intended. The defense relies on the outcome of the roll to see if she gets it up there, right? To get gets it into play.
Yeah.
So makes sense. Oh my God. Look at this screen.
Would this be a situation where Jane gets to spend threat?
Oh, I think so.
Like the Embuto situation?
Well, wait, but that's if she's an NPC. I can't spend threat.
Right. You won't be spending down the threat as Jane, but you can certainly contribute to the pool. Yeah.
Just what we need.
All right. So
I'm actually perfectly happy saying that she's representing the existing threat at this point rather than ramping it.
So the difficulty for Jane. This is an opposed roll. The difficulty for Jane is 1. The difficulty for Anya will be 3.
And I don't think we have any extra this or that going on, right? Unless we want to spend momentum.
Right. There's nothing along those lines.
Right.
Okay. And
any values here that I think would apply. So
Right.
Right.
she's more efficient and ethical.
No relevant talents. And
Yeah, and the characters aren't as meaty as player characters with all their different things to draw on, so that's fine.
right. So all we really have is Jane Finch's complication, which, if it became mechanically involved, would be affecting her ability to resist doing something else. Right? She's going to be mechanically pushed to doing what she's doing right now, so it doesn't have a mechanical input. So you've got your dice and you've got your decision about the resources, and it's an opposed roll, so you're looking for more successes than the other person. It will be.
I'm actually willing to toss in momentum because, and I'm even going to be, I know I'm not required to do this, but I do feel the momentum from the last moments of the last session. Right. The seeing that Jane Finch was standing there with the empty eyes and everything. Now this is like swaying right in from that. So give me that momentum. And that means another die, correct?
Well, that sounds more like you're drawing on threat.
Oh. Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, as I say, I want to spend momentum.
Momentum for the team. You could do both.
Mm-hmm.
You could take one momentum and spend 2 threat. I'm also leaning towards buying 1 dice for Anya with momentum. Then we take 1 on the basis that she's feeling like she's being on the defense, and she's kind of like trying to back up Tilip.
Okay.
I don't think we have to justify taking momentum. We just do it, right? So
I'm just saying it for plot reasons.
Yeah, me too.
So
but Anthony's arguing, so I'm telling him to stop and just give me my momentum.
The lead character is Jane.
Lead here?
So she gets to, she's initiating the.
Oh, right. In the case of a tie.
The roll. So
mechanics check, 3 dice.
You're going to buy 1? Okay. And you're buying it with momentum?
Correct. And then stealing it from poor Korsakov and poor Yang for later, but that's how it goes. And then my target number. Anybody with the numbers in front of them?
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. What's the
Jane Finch? We are using.
It's all presence at this point, right?
Well, yeah, I think so. Presence and command.
Okay. So Jane Finch is a 9, 8 plus
9. Ooh, ouch. Okay.
Yeah. Surprisingly, Anya is actually a 13.
Oh wow. Okay. I like this. Jane's like operating off partial. She's not a very conspiratorial person, right? Now she is doing this. Right.
She's being kind of compelled.
Whereas Anya's the more charismatic one, the more socially
and able to deal with curves being thrown at her too. So.
Right. All right. So, and Anya, are you going to dip into any resources?
I'm spending 1 momentum for a 3rd dice. So yes, so that would be yes.
Basically, I think Casey and I just want some background music. We want incidental music to the sinister trumpets are underlying this girls' night out dialogue. So excellent. All righty then. Okay. Holy poo. All right then. Nice roll for me. I get 2 successes with a 1.
Oh, wow.
And 1 further success, and then an incidental failed die. So
still 3 though.
Against a difficulty of 1. Yeah.
Anya has 3 successes. I'm not seeing any focus that applies here, so it's just straight up true.
Yeah, they're definitely not focused. Their focuses are technical, right? For both of them, has nothing to do with this stuff. So yeah,
defensive screening and hand-to-hand combat and things like that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So
okay.
So cool.
Which means that Anya makes the difficulty of 3, and Jane beats the difficulty.
Right.
getting 2 successes over her difficulty, and they end up tying in terms of total number of successes. So let's say then it could be conceivable then that they each kind of gain some kind of advantage here. Not advantage, but social advantage.
Can I
Yeah.
check on some math? Since both are rolling against their own difficulty, effectively we've got orthogonal effects. So neither is defending against the other. The difficulty was the defense. So their relative successes don't actually put them, head to head in their goals. We are crisscrossing effectively.
So what I'm thinking,
otherwise it would have been just a defense roll, right? So
what I'm thinking is that the party moves back up to the Avicenna.
Okay.
If you see what I mean.
I don't. What are you talking about?
Well, Jane Finch wants access to Korsakov's
right.
quarters.
Okay, so we do get there is the point. We do get to the quarters
we get up to the Avicenna.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And see what I'm saying? That
right. So that side of the argument gets us close there. Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So like they drunkenly stagger into a transporter room and they get beamed up to the Avicenna. And Ahern Doyle is still on duty, still grumpy.
Oh no. Hi, Ahern, how you doing? Yeah. Glad to see you're having a good time.
Yeah. Rub it in, why don't you? And maybe Anya's thinking that they're heading back to Jane's quarters or Anya's quarters to do a lot cheaper drinking and that kind of thing. Not that they would have to be paying all that much anyway in this kind of society, but the idea is we know that a certain chief engineer had his alcohol stashed in it.
I was going to say alcohol stashes, given the culture of 1970, it's perfectly reasonable for anybody to pull a fifth out of their desk drawer, right?
So anyway, and all the illicit alcohol options that but maybe we find ourselves in the corridor heading toward a certain crewman.
Right. So it's very much like, what are we doing down here? Well, it's only right here. Whereas
that's really tough for Anya because as spies, without any pre-knowledge of what Jane Finch is up to, you don't just walk into somebody's quarters as a matter of protocol. Like Jane can say it's right here, but Anya will probably be saying like, no, we don't go in there. I've got my stash in my room, so let's go there instead. And unless Finch has some real good maneuver on this,
I've got him. Sadly to say, I have a maneuver.
All right, let's hear it.
Which is sadly enough, I completely have a maneuver, and it is totally sure. You've got, now I'll name whatever booze. It's pretty clear that Anya would have. They probably know what their favorite, their favorites are. So it's kind of like, sure, you've got that fancy wine. And sure, I've got that, the little tiny bit left over from, the schnapps from way back when, in names like, from way back when she got it. But he's got that, I would say, he's got that Latvian vodka. And you cannot get that anywhere else. It's sitting right there. And it's ice cold.
Anya's jokingly saying like you would know.
And Jane gives her a significant look.
All right.
So I'm.
He says, in fact, let's just say I know he wouldn't mind.
All right.
So I don't know how is the alcohol complication is supposed to come in to this lapse of judgment.
It's the lapse of judgment, the impulse control here. So this would be applying a difficulty boost to Anya, right? In this scene, whereas in the previous scene they're trying to persuade each other with logic. There wasn't particularly any need to penalize or promote anything. But now Jane's got once again all the cards, right?
Yeah.
We came up here for the purpose of more drinking, but the best thing to drink it's just right there, and he won't mind, and maybe there's something going on between me and Korsakov, and wouldn't you like to know? And so I mean, all of that is just like this tidal wave of
of reasons.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, Anya has her reasons to say no, but I'm just thinking, where should the alcohol impediment come in to sort of affect that? That thought process.
And this could be Jane's last party on the Avicenna, right? I mean, she could turn in her keys tomorrow, right? I mean,
Anya has reasons to say no.
We can cut some slack on the last party night, right? What's the harm?
Yeah.
We're in a space station. No Klingons.
Although we are actually breaking into the last person we're breaking into. The security officer.
The chief of security,
yeah. Imagine if his security was compromised. So, I mean, is there something appropriate to go to the dice move? I'm fine. I'm fine with either result, I believe.
Does the previous roll apply in any way, and this is an extension of it, or not? I don't know.
I'm guided by your feelings. If the person playing Anya feels persuaded, then they can simply go that way. And if they are stuck looking at Anya on paper and Anya as played and can't make up their mind, then we've got the dice.
It's your character, I guess. Yeah.
I think let's let the dice decide.
Okay.
And we have one momentum left, so I'm willing to just balance it both ways. That I'll spend momentum and I'll spend threat, and let's just see where it goes from there.
Okay.
So what are my difficulties?
And I had forgotten to put 2 momentum in the temporary pool the last time, so they're actually sitting in the momentum.
Yeah, they're actually sitting there now, right? Because same seems allowable.
There's 3.
Oh, the 2.
There's the one you had, and
she had gone. No, makes sense. The previous interaction on the space station in the bistro, carrying into this, they've got momentum going literally. So sure.
So we have 3. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We've replaced the 2 that we both took out.
Very
the
efficient.
scene has maintained its momentum.
That's right, because you're senior staff. no wasted energy. So there you are, outside Korsakov's door. There's the hallway is empty. It's a skeleton crew. The Avicenna's in orbit around this highly defended place. Everybody who can go ashore has gone ashore. The door is locked.
All right.
A silly beep on a panel next to a door isn't really a lock.
well, to Anya Smith, it's as simple as a B. So what am I rolling against? Like, what's the resistance for Anya?
All right. So if we go to a roll, then Jane Finch is still doing presence and command, but now at 0 difficulty.
Right.
Whereas
So
is this still in a pose? Because I was thinking this is more like an
I think there should be a difficulty. I think Anya's done what I think Jane has done what she's done.
Yeah,
Setting
Anya
a
is
difficulty,
more
and
the-
you're up against the difficulty. So there's
no,
one
no
dial
opposition.
here. Yeah,
but
there's
more
one
like,
dial here, not
this is
two.
Anya against herself.
Right. I totally get that.
Fair enough. Yeah. Then it has to be insight and command from Anya. And her difficulty are Jane's arguments and implications and temptations, which is already pushing us into the realm of difficulty 3. And the alcohol is going to push us up to a 4.
Oh, nice. All right.
Okay.
So with apologies to both Yang and Korsakov.
Oh no, you're taking it all.
Only because alcohol is bad, and
how many 20s? That's
really...
right. That's right. There you go. How many 20s are we actually gonna acquire here? That's what I want to know.
I'm fascinated by the opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah.
And just to make it sound fair, I will buy 2 dice with the 3 momentum. And I will buy the 3rd dice with threat of 3.
Wow. Which means I have to manufacture more threat.
Well, you got the artifact is already humming behind the door there. I really don't think you have a problem with that.
Okay.
All right.
This is fascinating.
I mean, the artifact itself as a physical object has not yet manifested any threat.
Right. So I'll roll 4.
Sitting there.
The 5th dice is gigantic. All right. So I'm sorry, it was insight and command, right?
Yeah.
Insight and command for Anya Smith is 12. Right. So I currently have 3 successes out of 4 dice. I will roll my 5th dice right now. It's a success. So that's actually 4 successes out of 5 dice.
Nice.
And this was the dice I wanted to fail.
This is the one you wanted to fail.
Oh, I've got my plan. I've still got my backup plan. I'm in the groove now. I know what to do.
So right, so this is where Anya lays out her last defenses, I guess. It wouldn't be right to break into the chief security officers, even though it's just for a booze. This is going to get us in a lot more trouble than it sounds like. And although I can trust that neither of us are going to say anything about it, and Korsakov probably wouldn't mind losing a few drops, but we have some unfortunate bystanding witnesses that transported us here in the first place. So
I'll agree fervently. I'll say you're right. I'm just there's a limit to this bad girl business. You're absolutely right, completely right. And let's go, check out the wine you were talking about. And when the opportunity arises, I will take the cute little, hard drive disk that I acquire from this and go back and do it myself.
Yeah, that works perfectly well with Anya.
All right.
So basically, I have completely, Anya, if not passed out, is at least neutralized through further parting, and I can make off with the necessary MacGuffin that I can acquire from her.
Right. So that I will need a fitness. Fitness and what? Fitness and it'll have to be security.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, usually you do that for decking someone, but now we're just toughing out the No.
That's right.
Slide of
Yeah.
the hand.
Yeah.
So fitness and security from Jane.
And what does that give me for numbers?
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I was looking right at it.
uh,
That's fitness 9 and security 2.
security too. Ooh.
Okay, 11. And I have just the 2 dice. I believe all the momentum has been handled. Now, how many I would like to provide you with some more threat because I want this artifact to be scary.
All
So,
right then.
and also really, I mean, yeah, who knows? Oops.
How many dice would you like?
Well, with the example of my fellow player in hand, I don't see why I can't, be completely irresponsible. Casey, I'm following your example and I'm getting a bunch of extra dice and we're just going to have to eat the threat. So, what happens if I get 2 dice? That gives you a bunch more, right?
That gives me 3 more threat.
Perfect. That's the plan.
And if you bought 3 dice, I'd get 6 more threat.
No,
Which is almost exactly the same.
I am going to roll 4 dice then with an
All right,
11
then.
or less. Okay, I get 2 successes and no 20s.
Cool. Okay. That's pretty exciting. And I'll just share this for posterity and shock value.
Right.
Okay. So
I'm almost tempted to, if we get the chance, we continue to play with Jane if she survives this episode, which is starting to look dicey. But if she does, and we end up giving her a talent or something, I'm gonna find the one that's like, I know my ship, right? So she knows like all
Right.
these things. I mean, how do you use this device to, override?
this
She knows.
override.
She knows.
She's been on the ship long enough.
Yeah, she knows all that stuff.
All right. So the scene fades out as Anya kind of closes her eyes on the table,
Right.
and Jane staggers to the right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna be. Can I be a little specific about that? I don't see
Yeah,
a
yeah.
stagger. I don't see a stagger when she, she's nice enough to. Anya's on her bed, right?
Yeah.
So it's not. And she when she acquires the little orange cartridge, whatever those things were, when she leaves, there is no trace of a stagger.
Yeah.
Oh,
The alien mind takes
Right.
over.
That would be
There's
creepy.
no-
Yeah, there's no. I mean, she's like, haha, it's like it's
Yeah.
over. Focus. Yeah.
okay. And we cut away to
Thank God.
Korsakov, and
Me.
yeah, sorry, you're still on. So Korsakov is waiting.
Yeah, there's no breathers in this game, that's for sure.
With Embuto
Mhm.
and other Starfleet personnel. You're all in the same waiting room for the same reason, but these are not officers from the Avicenna. They are people who have something to say about Stian Anders from some other role of life, right? Some previous command or what have you. But that's what this waiting room is for, is that. And okay, one of you, either Embuto or Korsakov, will be called next. If the trial just proceeds according to what your counselor prepared you for, then it will be Korsakov who is asked to speak next. But if there's some kind of dramatic development in the trial, who knows what could happen, right? But you have a few minutes prior to the trial. And so one person comes back in from the court. They are a medical officer, quite highly placed, lots of decorations for medical accomplishments. And Korsakov, being Korsakov, is able to recognize all of these things as a tactical officer. This person has particularly distinguished themselves in the realm of mental health. Right. And they simply pass through. They've finished their testimony and they're leaving.
And I'll say they're pulling out every expert, they're pulling out the experts from every sector.
All right. Now, what I'd like to propose is that Mbuto and Korsakov, working together using their insight and command, might be able to figure out the political situation evident in this hearing. Like, what does Starfleet want? Based on the witnesses that are currently sitting here with you, all of whom were kept secret until now.
Possibly, although I have a different priority. Maybe I'm not saying that we won't do that, but I have a different priority that is I'm more interested in KC than you. I mean, I love you too, Anthony, but we got to figure out what we want to do here. And the thing I'm saying is this: the thing I need to know, we need to know, is Captain Anders. I mean, when we look at him, when we see him, are we going to back him? Is Captain? What do we think? Yeah, well, I don't know if he's there yet or not, but what do we think? I mean, is he himself again or not?
And Buto had met him yesterday.
Right. But this is our question. I mean, we know we've already agreed we're going to tell the truth about the artifact, but the question is whether we think it's gonna slant our testimony, right? Whether what side we're on here. They say that we're objective, we're not. So what do we think? I mean, is that a role, or do we want it? We can do the political one. I mean, that's fine. Maybe we should.
Maybe we can do that. Take some obtain information if we have any, and then we can decide.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing like a roll. Nothing like a preliminary roll.
Yeah,
can be a good thing.
It's a little hard to gauge Anders until you see him.
I know. So it should be coming up when we get there. So
so you'll have the opportunity to do that.
So you said that this was a insight and command. Was that correct?
Insight and command.
Yeah. Okay. Basic roll. I'm willing to just do a basic roll.
Yeah, I'm just willing to do basic roll for
Right.
as well.
I'm going to increase the complication range.
Yes.
By 2. So it's down to 16. Yeah.
Okay, so we're working together on this. Does that mean our successes go together?
So is this
how does that work?
Is this like a lead assistance thing, or it's a 2 separate
Yes.
roles?
Oh.
Yeah. You decide who's the lead.
I would say Korsakov to be the lead.
On the basis of opening credits alone, which seems a little unfair, but okay. But if you're interested, I have rolled 2 successes. I rolled a 4 and a 5.
And Buto has failed for both.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe Korsakov has insight that Buto is not privy to at this point.
Well, yeah, we can.
All right. The basic layer of information is that the witnesses presented here and the ones who you have seen leaving and the ones you've been informed about from the counselor, those from the physical competency hearing, those from the mental competency hearing are highly ranked, highly experienced, expert witnesses who kind of do this as their their role in Starfleet now, and they're trotted out to talk to planetary bodies and that
Right,
sort of thing.
right.
Whereas the others, like you, are lieutenants, ensigns.
Are you saying there's a very definite rank discrepancy between the sort of two sides of the debate? Okay.
Yes. So those witnesses who might have some concerns about Anders' ability are very low on the totem pole, and those who you have learned have already cleared him.
Right, right.
are
So
very high
so
on
I'll even say it looks like we've got a split, or it looks like we've got a rank factor coming in here. We have a
And then Buto gives him this funny look, like, "Are you telling me a joke?"
it's like, no, I'm not. It's not. I mean, look, there's a whole lot more stars and bars on that side than on this side.
All right.
And Buto is still saying, like, Starfleet still wants to hear what Starfleet has to say. And we'll just give our side of the story, and they give their side of the story, and Starfleet will still make a decision. It's not like we have much
That's
pull
true.
on that.
Right. No, I agree with you on that. I mean, but we've agreed what we're going to say in terms of the truth, so of the artifact. So I don't need to belabor that, because we know that. So, what do we do, Anthony? We have those momentums, right?
Yep.
Okay. Buying some advantage, or what do you think, Casey?
No, you already have your advantage on,
We have the one advantage. So what do you think we should do mechanically with those momentum at this time?
Nothing I can think of at this point. I'm thinking it's probably something that will be used in the questioning process.
Okay,
When
so
you
bank them?
walk into I think bank them right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, either that or more information, which I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I'm ready for the fight. I feel like you and me are both ready for the fight, right? So, yeah.
Okay.
And I've got all this determination burning a hole in my pocket. So,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, too.
All right. And using television logic, we cut to Ensign Yang.
Who thought he was going to cut us some slack this bit.
This session.
Yeah.
He's on the
All
clock.
right. So he's on the clock, and the implication is once he's met that, his parents have other things to do, and they've still got several more productive hours of politicking to do. So the impromptu family dinner party abruptly comes to an end, and what is he going to do?
So technically speaking, he's now, at liberty, right? He doesn't have any more commitments. He can.
That's right.
Go on with his own plots.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know how appropriate is this, based on setting or Starfleet rules, for Ensign Yang to either make an appointment with Chief of Operations, Timmons, or is this something that he has to go through some formal channels before he can communicate with Timmons?
Well, there's approaching Timmons as a person, and then there's approaching him as the Chief of Operations.
He would go for the Chief of Operations route. This is not a personal thing.
Then yes, you'd have to contact him and find out a convenient time when he could speak with you.
I will return in a moment. Keep playing, and I'll catch up.
Right. Okay. So Yang could go for the route to say that he wants to meet with Timmons on the strictly business side of saying maybe we can do a review of that demonstration session with the cadets, and it's not necessarily a feedback session. It's more like maybe we like this is what happened and maybe we can work some things out. But I'm not exactly sure if that's enough, if Yang is in any sort of right rank to do that.
Well, Timmons was suggested to him by Paulson,
Right.
primarily as an alternate avenue to gain favor.
Right, but the basis of the Yang is trying to play this more on slightly by the book, in the sense that the favor is the favor he's going to get from Timmons is not necessarily a you scratch your back and I'll scratch yours. It's more like a professional reasoning, like hear
Excellent.
me out. Yeah.
Well, this might allow you to. You may recall you banked a commendation.
Yes, that's right.
Which has an appropriate value as earning the favor of an important NPC in the scene or in the setting. So
That commendation point was not tied to a specific NPC. It's spend on anyone you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
then,
the route could be something along the lines of one competent individual to another competent individual.
Yeah, for sure. On paper.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think that Ensign Yang screwed up?
Well, I mean, he did perform the demonstration, which was outside what actually happened. So that's his personal opinion.
You just didn't manage the student. You didn't kiss the student's ass enough.
But in the sense that there was some professional grounds on why I'm saying that, I did the demonstration correctly, but it was not medicated or prepared in the professional sense, not up to Yang's experience, if not standards.
So, to answer your question about the setting, you're not sure how to do it really as the setting. Someone like this chief of operations, who is in the non-officer track, right? He's enlisted, so he's the type that would say that he works for a living, kind of thing. He
and
gets
those
his hands
students
dirty.
And those students certainly don't.
There,
what they're
there
bucking
would
for.
be there could be an expectation that he would have more in common with a pilot who flies than a student trainee who complains that their test was too hard.
Right.
So,
he didn't test me on what I studied for. And I studied
basically
really, really, really hard.
That was basically Evers' complaint in a nutshell. Was
Completely.
He tested me on the wrong
among
thing.
other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Yang is definitely going to be utilizing or exploiting that particular relationship with Timmons in that. In fact, this is a highly professional, organized review session rather than let's talk about something.
Yes,
else.
that would go through official channels.
And I'm happy to spend the commendation points to get that. That's probably the best time to do it.
So, okay. All right, then. So, Yang burns the midnight oil, making these appointments and connections. Korsakov burns the midnight oil, preparing for the trial. Jane Finch burns the midnight oil by drinking Anya into a stupor. And the day of the trial rolls around, and Buto and Korsakov report for duty to give their testimony. Korsakov discovers that he's going to be called on first, although the expectation was that Ambuto would be, but he's been deferred now for a couple of times. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah,
They keep shoving him off, aren't they?
Right. Okay. Very nice. So, we cut back to Korsakov as the bailiff comes to escort him into the actual chamber. And as you might expect, there is an area for Korsakov to wait with counsel. There's a small section at the back for observers. There's a large view screen against one wall. There's a large raised panel for up to 3 different officers to sit in judgment should that be necessary, which it's not necessary for this particular hearing. The only one present is Commodore Stone.
Oh, okay.
Right. So he is, resplendent in his full red dress uniform. The trial has obviously been going on, or the hearing has obviously been going on for a number of hours, and they've just made their way through.
I'm getting the idea that it's not Anders who's on trial here.
Right. They've gone through all the expert witnesses, and they've taken a brief recess. So you've been in your dress uniform for a while, waiting, and then waiting more, and then the time that you were probably going to be giving your deposition passes, and et cetera, et cetera. So finally, you're brought in, and your counselor is there, stands waiting for you, and you're expected to stand in this small raised dais with a circular railing, and an officer of the court comes forward and asks if you intend to tell the truth.
I absolutely intend to tell the truth.
So then a small disc is slid over for Korsakov to place his hand upon, which, as everybody knows, because it's just a part of life, is a medical scanner which will determine.
Yes, if they can do it to Harry Mudd, they can do it to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then you're asked to state name, rank. The computer lists off Korsakov's record, and notes of that are made. Commodore Stone just sits there in state, almost looking down on everybody. And once you are properly sworn in, then Stian Anders is returned to the courtroom.
I believe we've passed over a detail that I was thinking and wanting to play, which is that when I come in, I am using a reasonably space age looking, but really it's nothing more than a cane. The item when I come in, and then I hand it to the bailiff, and then I will make my way to the place where I stand, but it has to be a little slower, just a little slower than I might. And if anyone cares, I'm daring anyone to say anything.
Nice.
The computer records should mention that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that would be among the last things listed,
Mm-hmm.
injured in the line of duty,
I'm not going to play it up. I'm doing my very best to walk normally, but to do so, it means I have to do it slowly.
All right. That gives us a good image. Stian Anders comes in with a number of people who are obviously counselors and some former and present crew of the Avicenna. And I am spending 4 threat.
as well you should.
From my enormous pool. Right.
Pocket change to you now.
Because those crew members are looking daggers at Korsakov. Yeah. Now, when he's giving his testimony, he is to be looking at Commodore Stone or the screen.
I shall. Mm-hmm.
So they'll be behind him.
Right, and they're all, oh God, all their little eyeballs are pointing at him from behind. Right. Got it.
But
got it.
at the moment
Perfect.
when he's being sworn in, he is, or they are his field of view. Right? You have to turn away from them to look up at Commodore Stone.
No problem.
Okay.
I'll give him one nod of, hey guys.
All right. Anders, on the other hand, looks like he always did.
Excellent. Okay.
And there's even a hint of that encouraging smile, like, "You've got this, Lieutenant."
Yeah. I know. He was most most like that before too. Yeah. Excellent.
The questions begin with normal stuff such as the Korsakov's start date on the mission, when he first met Captain Anders, blah blah blah, and then they begin to become more specific. They are some of the questions you've heard before. When you first heard that there was a series of competency hearings being conducted for, now they use his correct rank in this trial, Commander Anders. What was your honest reaction?
At the beginning of the hearing? Let's repeat the question, please.
When you first heard that Commander Anders was going to be going through a series of competency hearings to regain command of the Avicenna, what was your, and they emphasize the word, honest reaction?
Confirmation, relief that this was the proper thing to do. Captain Anders had undergone severe trauma. Any crew member who undergoes trauma of that kind needs to be assessed.
As you yourself are being assessed now on Starbase 11.
Not a question. Russians don't answer non-questions.
Do you tell her that, or you just?
That's not what I. No, that's to my player comment. My player comment is that this is when I'm asked a question, I'm going to answer it. Get to the point.
I'm not asking you to speculate as a medical officer. I'm asking you to evaluate as the chief of security of the USS Avicenna. Based on your understanding of the situation, what was the trauma? What was the effect of the trauma? And what are your concerns about this trauma now that it has passed? Of Commander Anders.
The trauma was death. Full, clinical, and complete death. Loss of life. Continuing with the trauma of being subjected to a hitherto unknown source of energy and technology, and the reinstatement from that condition, which I do believe, unlike what you just referred to, I have not encountered and could not possibly imagine doing so. The effect of that experience, the effect of the technology in question, remain entirely unknown, and given his responses during that time, I doubt anyone here would object to a full, complete, thorough, and critical assessment, not only of his competence, but indeed of his humanity.
Mm-hmm. there's every expectation that at the beginning of that response, there should have been an outcry. There should have been a huge, like, what, he's dead, or something, and then, you know, banging of the gavel, like, order in the court, any of those things. But there's silence. I'm spending 2 threat.
Oh, you can even see me kind of lean forward and kind of, without saying anything, you did hear me, right? Is this thing on?
Yes, Lieutenant Korsakov, we have heard you. Your claim now is that there is a suggestion that Stian Anders died and was reanimated by alien technology and may or may not be now alien.
The word alien is highly technical, and I have no competency in assessing that. The question is whether he is himself at all. And I look significantly down at the thing my hand is resting on, which, as I understand, has given off no beeps.
No beeps.
Right. I'll look down at that and look back up.
Lieutenant Korsakov, in your role as Starfleet officer, you have been given extensive tactical and security training. Is that correct?
My record is available.
And your record, I'd like to congratulate you on it, is impressive. So, having risen to Chief of Security of the Avicenna, we can rightly trust that you have been trained in how to be calm and controlled under pressure and under adverse circumstances.
Player comment, not character comment.
Sure.
I'm waiting for the question mark. Haven't heard it yet.
Correct.
I'm doing the whole knitted brows. My training records are also available upon review. I trust this has been carried out already.
We just thought you might want to clarify. It has been known, she's now speaking to Commodore Stone, and let the record reflect, that officers in the role employed by Lieutenant Korsakov have been known to control themselves to such a degree that the bioscanner does not react to their lies, as they have been trained to control themselves.
Korsakov says, just purely all that, control, waiting for the question, blah, 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 who's in charge in this courtroom, hostile witness kind of thing, just drops, just complete, like, looks down at the bioscanner, looks back up and says, really? That's complete news to him. Really? Like, does that even work? No. And that's what it says. Really?
Maybe in Russian.
Not sarcastic, really, but I mean, just honest, like factual.
Right.
We are?
Perhaps we're seeing a highly skillful demonstration of it right now. I'd like to continue with the awareness that the witness may, in fact, be a hostile one.
The speculative, that the term may apply, but I'm still like looking at the bioscanner. I'm kind of almost tempted. I'm like, can I lie? Really?
So
Who knew?
let's see what, as he's standing there under scrutiny, being scrutinized, let's see what Korsakov is able to assess, what he can glean from what's going on around him.
Oh, he's a nest of vipers. I can tell you that much right now, even without a roll. So, what do I glean, and what is my gleaning capability?
Let's have this gleaning
Insight?
capability based on his alien tech experience.
Ooh.
And the fact that he's the one who brought Anders back to life.
Right.
Insight
and
and
science.
Medicine.
Insight and medicine, even better. Okay. So yeah, there we go. And I debate on whether to utilize anything that I've got rolling for me here. You know what? Something tells me, Casey, we do need, especially if Mbuto's going to get it after me, we do need some more bank here. Don't you think?
Yeah.
We need, I mean, whether it's advantages, we've got one measly advantage. I think we better have more. So I think this might be the time to get some guaranteed successes with the point of determination. Now, to do that, I have to do a values thing. Is that right, Anthony?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of your values has to apply.
Oh, yeah. Well, phonies, good Lord, they just called me a phony, right? And and frankly, their justification for that is like, I heard it in a bar that the security guys can lie on the lie detector, right? So I'd rather haven't heard any justification for that. And if anybody should know that, who but me, right? And I never even heard of this. So, bullshit, basically. I'm calling bullshit. To hell with the phonies. I'm surrounded by them. They're going to get it now.
All right, so we're starting out with two successes. All right.
2 successes guaranteed. I'll mark off that point of determination because we do not want to lose track of those either direction. So there's that. And then I've got my roll, which is 12 or less. And we're sitting there with those 2 momentums just sitting there in the bank right now, right?
So they could buy you another die.
I'll buy one. Is it 1, 2 for 1, 1 for 1?
1 for 1 at this stage.
The determination is the first die.
No, I know that. Okay.
Right.
Oh, that's right. I did this before. Yeah, I remember. Okay.
Right.
I don't double dip, or rather, I do
2
double.
momentum.
Yeah, it's double dip. 2 momentum for 1 more die. I don't think I'm going to do that. We need to save those, unless.
How many momentum? 2 success. So
right.
You're rolling for any success you get at this point, basically momentum.
Yeah, it's difficulty 0 roll. So.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So so I have those 2 success. So I set down a die and put it on a 1. That's the proper way to do this, right? Okay.
Correct.
So then I have the other die to roll. Casey, I'm consulting you as fellow player.
You have 2 dice to roll.
No, you have 2 dice to roll.
Okay. Do I want another die with momentum or not, or do I just roll this in? I think I can just do it.
Yeah, okay. I think 2 is fine because it's difficulty 0.
And rock and roll with a 3 and a 4. Thus, my ancient tech, I do believe, gets its little boost.
Wow.
I have to meet my specialty on that, right? Or not?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, in that case, I don't think I do, because I only have a science of 1.
Medicine.
Oh, it's medicine. In that case, I get one of those gets an extra success. The other one misses it by a single point. So I end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 successes on 2 dice that were actually rolled. So that's nice. 5 successes, which translates into 5 momentum in hand.
Oh, that's what we needed.
And you could buy 2
well, first of all, what's my basic success get me in terms of this? Thinking about the artifact, what's my basic success? And then we can decide whether we want more information and all that stuff, because strong possibility there. And also I want to buy an advantage 4 Mbuto if that's allowed. I don't know if it is or not. So
Okay, here we go. The
basic info.
The basic info. The prosecutor is prosecuting. But the crew members that came in with Anders show some of the physical signs that Anders did once he regained consciousness, once being revived. And there's like a buried memory of coming into rooms where you'd expect activity, and yet people were just kind of standing there, and then they start being active when you came in. There's a certain stillness. There's a certain lack of humanity.
Yeah, affects or yeah. Okay. There's also, I mean, considering I'm not trying to be meta here so much as just appropriately atmospheric for my experience. Is this one of those things where we have a certain sound effect? You know, in the show, remember when you pass an infection, it goes, or the sound effect of like Where No Man Has Gone Before. You know, we've got the eyeballs, but also kind of a creepy thing going on somehow.
Right.
But something like that, whatever it is. I'm not even saying that we specify, but there's that.
Yes.
They've got it. Whatever that shit is, they've got it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
So probably the prosecutor is just being
the prosecutor's just
tough as nails.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah. Could it not be that day gravity was reversed? Could it not be? Right. Or some shit like that. So with that going on, since that basic information is not to the player much of a revelation, I'm glad Korsakov knows now. I say we push for some information with a momentum, whatever that cost is for the next layer of info.
It costs one.
That's well spent.
Okay. The next item of information is that it doesn't seem like Anders is paying much attention to the trial. In fact, it seems like he's concentrating. He has like an image of his thoughtful face. It's almost like a shadow of his thoughtful face, as if his face is doing it out of habit, you know. But he's not paying attention to any of this.
Right. So I look at the weirdness, and then I see him, and it's like,
right.
He's
and Lieutenant Commander Jane Finch enters to go into the viewers section, and his head turns and she nods. And now he's paying attention to the trial.
Right. So Korsakov suddenly realizes, oh no. Right. Oh no. So the desire to suddenly do a soccer goalie dive while firing a phaser in midair is strong, but I have no phaser.
So, don't you have a strong right hook or something?
Oh yeah, it may be required. We'll see about that. But that's brawling in the courtroom isn't quite the same drama as the soccer goalie dive. John Woo phaser firing, right? So, Kevin Sorbo phaser firing, I think we could probably say. Andromeda, he did that shit a lot. So in that case,
if you'd like to know more, there is more to learn.
I bet there is. The question is whether we want to save this meaty momentum, for the next user. I'm not sure if there's much more we need to know at the precise moment. Turning it off, I'd like to know how to turn it off, but I'm not sure that's really possible.
Not out of this roll, yeah.
Right, right.
Okay.
So in that case, I'm going to call it in terms of my perception roll.
Okay.
I think we're done.
Then I will bank
The rest of the
momentum,
momentum banks. Right. So
and that
because we're
becomes
going to need that, both of us.
6. The threat pool.
There we go. Feeling a little better
9.
now. Momentum and threat pool are actually starting to, normalize a little.
Yep.
I doubt we'll ever really get ahead of it, but not in any.
Yeah. There's always a maximum of 6. So
Right.
actually, we're full then.
Okay. So, haha. The prosecutor drops her next bomb.
Oh, another one.
Which I paid for recently with the threat. And that's, we have been expecting this response, and we would like you to produce the artifact.
The artifact is available in my quarters on the Avicenna.
Would you like someone to retrieve it, or should we reconvene aboard the Avicenna?
Wait, they're asking me?
She's asking Commodore Stone.
I was going to say that's, well, as long as I can call the shots about where we go and what we do. In fact, I'll even say I request that Starfleet officially take, what's the word I want? Acquire? No. There's a word.
Possession.
Take over, take command, possession. That's it. Yes. This is. I formally request Starfleet to take possession of this artifact from the Avicenna and off it.
Stone leans in and says, Lieutenant, these are some serious charges which we are now sailing toward. I hope you understand that. Is this a large device?
I'll describe the container, which is, as I said, sort of like a guitar case sized.
Please instruct the security officer on what is required to retrieve the artifact and bring it to the court. Bailiffs come forward.
I will simply state the security code, the override. Say this is my security command override for my quarters. Right. Or for quarters on the Avicenna.
And then Commodore Stone calls a recess until such time as we can reconvene with the artifact, and you are escorted out of the court back to Mbuto. But we cut to Ensign Yang, and it is time to meet Chief of Operations Timmons. Are you taking anyone with you for moral support?
This time?
Well, normally, because during the demonstration, Anya was there, but for some reason, Yang couldn't.
She's not answering her.
Yeah, strangely enough, right.
So you will have to go at it alone.
Okay. Doesn't want to take Perky Joanne with him.
No,
it's not.
It's not relevant to the situation.
Yep. Okay, fair enough. So Timmons has an office like you'd expect on board the Avicenna. Very, very small, packed with information. There's a constant flood of sound. He seems to be able to pay attention to a lot of things at the same time. He's always very polite but forceful when interrupting the flow of conversation because he has to answer something, that kind of thing. But through a series of people sticking their head into his office to ask about pressure on valves and things like that, or the communicator going off with reports, status reports about shuttles landing and about transporters and different alien species, different environmental requirements, he asks, "How can I help you, Ensign Yang?" He is a human with a nondescript American accent.
So he's from Canada.
I
There you go.
Ensign Yang would just like to, in his formal language, was thinking that if we could go through the demonstration process with the cadets, there are a few things that happened there that I wasn't sure would have given the expected results that Starfleet expected out of me.
Did one of them complain?
No, actually, no, if I've not heard any complaints. I've not received any complaints. In fact, I think that's something that you would know better than myself.
All right, so most of them complained.
Which is very odd because part of the reason I came here, despite the difficulties they had with the test, I was actually here to give my commendations to some of the cadets. I was hoping that you could put that in your report when you had to report to Starfleet.
Well, I mean, the training program, the programming, the shuttles, all of it was organized through my office. And you were identified as being able to handle it. And from my perspective, you handled it. But are you saying that on a social level, a young man like you couldn't handle the pressure, sir?
No.
He suddenly remembers he's speaking to an officer, right? And
Right, exactly. Sir. Right.
No, everything was fine. Everything was fine on the social level. I was speaking more towards the technical level because there were some specifications that we were trying to demonstrate, but it didn't turn out to be that way. So I'm not sure if that's the source of where that complaints that you were talking about came from.
Well, I don't see how that could be, Ensign, because it was supposed to be a random trial. The cadets were supposed to be completely prepared for any one of the situations that presented themselves.
That occurred to me, certainly.
No, that was not the understanding of the briefing that was given from Starfleet because I was there to try to re-demonstrate the specific conditions in Xenon 5.
Well, Xenon 5 doesn't have just one weather pattern, Ensign.
That's true, but
during the sensor logs that I received, each one of those particular storms was recorded by one or more of the pilots.
Yes, that is true. However, my expertise in training this particular set of cadets was in that particular condition. And not only that, if you check the logs in your shuttles, you may notice there were certain malfunctions that happened that was not something I could handle, but
you got the worst storm.
Yeah, it was certainly off the books.
So, Ensign, I'm a busy man. I mean, you look like a nice fellow. Are you asking me for like a retest for these cadets?
Well, considering the circumstances that the cadets were put through, I was actually more inclined to give them commendations for performing above the expectations that were set upon them.
So you want me to recommend rewarding a bunch of whiny complainers who were prepared for their test?
I was just here to clarify that the cadets may not been aware they were put in a situation that more was expected out of them, and therefore they were able to perform admirably to those expectations.
Oh man, I'm on Timon's side. What? It's like what? No.
That won't necessarily get you out of hot water, Ensign. Are you actually telling me that you are more concerned about the careers of these cadets?
Well, I'm not sure how big an impact it would have on careers. I mean, getting a commendation from an ensign doesn't really count as much, but I think...
Training officer. Commendation from a training officer. Doesn't matter what your rank is. Trust me.
I'm liking this guy.
But if that's the case, that's actually much better because that means my commendations actually mean something for them.
Those people would actually owe you something.
Well, they still have the choice of when they want to pay back that debt if they feel obliged to do so.
Well, someone could explain to these cadets who have to operate here on Starbase 11 for the rest of the year, someone could explain to them about the process of withdrawing a complaint, especially a baseless one, in the face of a class act officer who is willing to commend them on their performance rather than taking revenge for their whining.
Well, yes, and Yang starts quoting certain staffing protocols on withdrawal of complaints. They are entitled to do this in the books, but I'm here just to give my side. I'm here to do what I think it's right for them.
Done.
They can decide what to do.
Done. Excellent. Oh, cuts right through it. Yeah.
He reaches into his desk. He pulls out a bottle of something really, really blue.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Yang's having a question.
Don't do it, Yang. Don't do it.
I've never seen this before.
What's that?
I think.
You've never seen this before? Well, allow me to be the first to introduce you to something that it's not illegal. It's just on the restricted list, and I have access to it for a medical condition. This is Andorian ale.
I had an earache 3 years ago. See?
He slides a glass across his scarred desktop. He pours a shot and says, "To crime.
To Starfleet cadets.
To Starfleet cadets."
Oh my God.
Drinks it down.
And let's see. So that's going to be fitness and
yes, actually, fitness plus security to impress the man with holding it. Not even the legendary Captain Kirk could do this. Only Bones has been able to do it. Can you, Ensign Yang?
Fitness
Difficulty
and
is
security?
2. Yes, fitness and security.
brutal.
Difficulty 2.
Difficulty 2.
Difficulty 2. I don't see a real reason why this would turn out badly. Or I don't
Right.
want it to
There are
turn out
no
badly
really
for-
bad
for-
outcomes. There's just
yeah.
how much respect are
Right,
you going to
how
get
much
from
respect.
Chief Timmons?
Yeah.
A lot
So-
or none?
Yeah. So I'm looking at the momentum and I'm thinking, is there a way I can make this a story reason for Yang? I think I'll just buy one dice with one momentum just because everything went according to plan.
Okay.
And it's just sitting there.
I was thinking of values, but none of it really comes out to me saying
Not really.
I'm sure drinking one
this is a-
shot of Andorian ale is a
determination.
determination-worthy experience.
Hitherto to be known from now on as the booze episode. Right.
Everything was solved with beer.
That's right.
Nothing I can use with talent as well, so that's a bit of a waste. Although with that momentum span, it actually opens up my untapped potential.
Untapped potential.
So I'll just roll for the.
Sadly enough, that does seem, in fact, to be to apply.
Also, I'll just roll for my fitness and security. Okay. What's my target number? My target number is 11. I have 3 successes with
Okay.
no applicable focuses, so they'll be just that.
All right. And
And the untapped potential to see.
untapped
I
potential.
regain. I regain that.
Untapped
spent momentum.
potential. Here we go. Delta. So, 1 momentum, 1 threat.
One threat. That works. That works.
And that makes beautiful sense, fictionally speaking. So, all right. And we cut back to Korsakov. 1 momentum goes away for
Yes.
the Yang scenes.
Yes, I was
Right,
going
but this
to
is still
remind
the
us
same
about
scene
our
for
decay.
Korsakov. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Good.
Right. So we're only decaying through Yang. We haven't finished with Korsakov yet. So.
Okay. Fair.
Okay. So time passes. Right. Everyone's left to stew. The security officers go up. They go to where they're supposed to go in Korsakov's quarters, and of course, it's not there. Everybody's brought back into the court. Lieutenant Korsakov, you testified that there was a human portable artifact secured in your wardrobe under lock and key. The security officers found this storage area, but no artifact was found.
It was present when I was last in those quarters, and I have no knowledge of anything that has occurred since, nor have I taken any action toward its removal by anyone else.
So the prosecutor steps forward. She briefly confers with Commodore Stone, and they decide to end the trial or end the hearing for the day. They will be advising Lieutenant Korsakov that he is not to leave Starbase 11.
I kind of think to myself, Starbase 11 is surrounded by vacuum. All right, then.
You're not confined to quarters. You're not confined to quarters here on Starbase 11, but the implication is you're not to beam up to the Avicenna.
Yes. Works for me.
And that legal proceedings will be brought against Korsakov and a number of others pursuant to the unusual outcomes of this trial. And as he's escorted out by,
I don't. I
guards,
have. May I request permission to
you can request
to speak?
permission to speak. Sure. And Stone
I
says,
request permission to speak.
yes.
And that the medical evaluations of Commander Anders be subject to full review in light of my testimony.
The court will take that under advisement.
All right.
So the bailiff comes forward bringing the cane.
I'll take it. Ouch. Been standing
the
here
audience, right? The audience is filtering out, and Anders takes the opportunity to wink.
I'll look and say, "Are you all right?"
Never better, Lieutenant. You'll understand soon enough.
That's what I needed to know.
And he's escorted out by his handlers. And that scene ends.
So it does, and a momentum goes with it.
You're watching Channel 3, SF TV.
Now, for the first time, one-touch sewing is here. On the sewing machine of the 70s, the new golden touch and sew machine by Singer. One-touch sewing is here. One touch and you dial a stitch. Straight, zigzag, decorative. One-touch sewing is here. with an amazing new stretch stitch for knits and elastics. Look, regular stitching breaks, but the new stretch stitch gives with the fabric, won't fall apart at the seams. One touch sewing is here. One touch starts a buttonhole. One touch winds the bobbin. One touch sewing is here. Only on the new Golden Touch and Sew machine by Singer. Come see how easy it is to own one now.